Trolls World Tour is the latest DreamWorks animated film. It is a sequel to the 2016 film, obviously, and it's a movie that would have been coming straight to theaters, but because of this pandemic we're in, we can't really go to the theaters, but Universal decided, hey, let's just put it straight to streaming. It begs the question, though, that since they decided that very early on, if they had waited a bit to see other studios just push everything back, like Sony just did with like Morbius and Ghostbusters, or Disney with Jungle Cruise and Black Widow, would they have done the same? They did push Minions Rise of Gru like a whole year back. But whatever, it's besides the point now, it's home anyways. This movie is about a villain named Queen Barb, played by Rachel Bloom, who wants to get all of the strings that separate each troll kingdom with each specific genre of music. She wants to get those strings, bring them together, and cause chaos by turning everyone into rock trolls, pretty much. Only one music can be celebrated, and that is rock. So Queen Poppy and Branch, once again played by Justin Timberlake and Anna Kendrick, decide to team up once again to go on an adventure to stop Queen Barb and also to try to unite the troll kingdoms in their own way, instead of the Rachel Bloom get everyone into rock way. I'm not a big fan of the first Trolls movie. I know they made like a holiday special after that movie and also like a TV show, I think. I'm not aware of any of that kind of media. I just know what happened in the first movie. I also rewatched it and it's still just kind of mediocre to me. It's not horrible, but it's fine for kids, but it's not really the kind of animated film that gels well with me where it's good for like everyone. So when they announced that they were making a sequel in the first place, it was like, yeah, the first movie was pretty successful. Of course, that was bound to happen. But even when the trailer started coming out, it just didn't look good. It didn't really look like they were trying to improve. In fact, it kind of made the movie look like it could be worse than the first film, so I really wasn't that excited for it. But of course, earlier this morning, I guess, the technical way of saying it, it came out available for rent. People can now watch this movie in the safety of their homes instead of going to the theaters that are closed anyway, so they can't see it there. I watched it, and you know what? What really dumbfounded me about this movie is that it's in a lot of ways exactly the same as the first movie in quality. It's about as mediocre as the first movie, but the message of this movie is actually deeper and it's a little bit more clever. So let me explain. A lot of my positives with that first movie do kind of carry on with this one. The world idea, honestly, it's not bad as far as like making a whole world that's just kind of cutesy for kids. Every kingdom is like specific to music. Like, it's not a bad idea for a kid's film, and if they had handled it a little bit better, it probably could have been more tight and a little bit more fun. And the animation, the art style is gorgeous. Like, it actually looks really fantastic. It's bright and colorful, and it looks really vibrant and good. Like, it's good to look at. A couple other positives that carry over directly from the first movie is that everyone's a good singer. It's not like you're listening to someone and going, ugh, that's a bad song. It's like, whether you like the actual songs or not, because this is kind of like a jukebox musical as well as an original musical as well, which was always kind of confusing about the first Trolls as well. But the singers in them are not doing bad themselves, so that could lead to some fun, like if you just like listening to actors singing songs. And there are a couple moments where jokes actually do stick. Unfortunately, the annoying humor from the first movie also does carry over into this movie as well, which was still kind of disappointing that they couldn't like bring the humor to a better level than where they were in the first movie. There's a lot of stuff that's still annoying, like James Corden, who plays Biggie, he's got like this sidekick worm thing with him. And the way he gets involved with the Poppy and Branch quest is just so like it has just shoehorned in comic relief, famous actor character written all over it. They're still trying to cash in on the fact that James Corden is a popular guy who's also not bad at singing, which makes sense, obviously, but he was just such a small part of the first movie, like barely a character. And in this one, they're just trying to make it seem like he's always been this great side character, so why wouldn't they bring him on this quest here? But it's like, he wasn't that. He wasn't anything in the first movie other than a MacGuffin. He was the kidnappee who needed to be rescued. There's also a subplot with another side character named Cooper, who's like that like horse-ish kind of troll who just showed up, who just decides like, I'm gonna go on my own side quest now. And every time it cuts away from Branch or Poppy, or anytime it cuts away from Barb, they'll just randomly shoehorn in scenes with him going on his own, pretty much, and also mostly just for humor. And they really just do that for plot convenience later on, but also to meander the film a bit more, to give kids a couple more laughs. And obviously kids will love this movie, so I'm not saying that they're bad for laughing at this. It's just, if you're a teenager like me or an adult who has to watch this movie with kids, you're probably not going to enjoy it. It's probably going to seem distracting because that's what it's meant to be. But getting away from negatives for a second, there is one thing that was better than the first movie that I was not expecting them to do at all, and that is, this movie's actually about something. Like, it actually has like a message, a theme. It's not only just about understanding other people's tastes in music, which also can be attributed to like a race theme, but it's also about cultural appropriation too. Like, they go in a direction that I wasn't expecting them to go in. I was like, oh, I was not expecting that in this movie. It's kind of a more mature theme than you'd expect. It's just made in a Trolls movie, so it's more kiddie, but it's there. And the way they kind of explore that theme and infuse it into Poppy's arc in this movie actually made it a little bit more watchable. Obviously, I have no real desire to watch this movie again, but there is something interesting to be looked at when you get to the part where they finally start exploring the theme a bit more. And it made Poppy a much better character than the first movie, too. I didn't really care that much for the character in the first movie, which obviously might seem odd because if you're aware of some of my older videos, how much I appreciate the actress that is playing her. Mwah. But besides the fact that Anna Kendrick is a perfect woman, perfect actress, I just didn't really care for the character in the first one. The material was just kind of weak in that movie, but in this one, they made her character a lot stronger, and her character arc was actually one to be kind of fascinated by, and I actually liked the chemistry between her and Branch once again here, because I liked the chemistry in the first movie, and in this one, it's made all the much better because both characters are kind of working for me, as opposed to the first movie I just kind of only liked Branch, because he was the one that was making sense. But in this one, it was both of them that were working really strong, which is obviously great. They open up the movie with the, you're a really great friend, Branch, and I was worried, like, oh, is this gonna be where the story is going, that Branch is trying to ask Poppy out the whole movie? I thought they already were kind of going out at the end of the first movie. There's a lot of love drops in that one, but whatever. After they do that one line, kind of just as a joke, they don't really bring it up ever again until when it's necessary to close out the movie, which is fine. That's good. So when the movie actually ended, I had a strange form of appreciation for going with the theme that it was going for, and for, in some way, shape, or form, actually improving on what the first movie was, which was just kind of straight down the middle. This movie actually being about something kind of puts it up. But at the same time, there's all these other things that also bog this movie down as far as the story goes. I already mentioned the irritating jokes. You have the side characters from the first movie now just acting like they're big characters and they deserve their own subplots, and that didn't really work, as I mentioned before. You also have a character played by Sam Rockwell who, when they make a reveal about, it's like, okay, that could have been interesting. But every other time you've shown him before this kind of reveal, the character's just kind of weakly written. I like Sam Rockwell enough, and he's got a good voice for this character that you're portraying, but there's not a lot there character-wise before this reveal is made for it to actually work or to have any big importance in the actual story or message that they're trying to deliver. And one of the things I noticed just right away when the movie started is that you can very obviously tell that this was not really planned when the first movie had come out. Like, when they announced it several months later they're going to make a sequel, that's probably when they were like, alright, what are we doing for this story? I'm not going to say it copied off of Infinity War because I know how long animated films take to make, and they started production for this one in like 2017, a whole year before Infinity War, but there is a lot of similarities that are like strikingly bizarre. The fact that the villain is, even though a troll and very small, not like Thanos, but she's still purple, and she wants to collect a group of colorful MacGuffins that will help her have all the power in all of the world, pretty much. It's very strikingly, bizarrely similar to Thanos. It doesn't help that she leaves behind like a wasteland of every single kingdom she goes to visit afterwards to get this thing. But that could have been completely coincidental, because like I said, this movie went into production a year before Infinity War came out. Maybe they just didn't know, and they're just stuck with this now, and they saw the movie and were like, well, that's very similar to Thanos now, but what are we gonna do? We were starting to work on it before we saw this movie. I don't know. But what I mean by, like, they obviously didn't really have much of a story beforehand is that they insert new story material at the beginning that's supposed to expand the world more and is supposed to make the story a lot bigger, but it doesn't really have much continuity with the first movie. Because there's this whole thing where when these specific pop trolls escape the Bergens in the first movie, that no Bergen can find them. The Bergens have a hard time finding where they are, but apparently there's like multiple different lands of trolls, different kinds of trolls just surrounding them. Apparently Pop Village just has its own specific place too, so like, why couldn't the Bergens find them at all in the first movie? Like, there's got to be a tighter explanation for that. Like, it's something that they could have avoided earlier in pre-production for this one. Like, let's work out how to actually make it connect with the first movie. It just kind of made the world, although they're trying to make it seem bigger, it made it feel more contained and small, when that's the opposite effect of what you should have had, because it makes the first movie a little weaker, as well as the fact that now there's the story element of, we had this string with us the whole time, even though we didn't really make much notice of it before. It's weird that the daughter of the king of this Pop Village too, Poppy, doesn't know about the history of the trolls or the fact that there are other trolls, the fact that no one else knows. It's just kind of weird that this is a new revelation. It would make more sense if maybe like the troll kingdoms were like very far away from where they ended up from escaping the Burg or something like that. But they didn't do that. They just went with everything's kind of close together, which made it feel more cramped. And unfortunately, I think Rachel Bloom is a more entertaining villain. Like her voice acting is actually more entertaining as far as a villain for this movie as opposed to the first movie where the Bergens were just kind of whatever. But what really brings her character down too is that they really do skip over what her motivation could be for wanting to turn all the trolls into rock trolls. It works more so in the essence of they're trying to go with a theme of understanding differences. She just wants to unite everyone under rock because everyone fights over music and she likes rock the most and she's the only one with the will to actually try to get all these strings. There's nothing else there to really support that character either. I was thinking like maybe there's something going on with the Ozzy Osbourne dad, like there may be something there when they first wheel him out, but unfortunately that doesn't really have any importance. I don't even know why they got Ozzy Osbourne to be in this movie, honestly. Barb doesn't really need a dad, and when they put the dad in just so they could have the celebrity cameo of Ozzy Osbourne, it feels like they could have cut it out of the movie and it wouldn't have really mattered. I was constantly trying to think of like what else can make these villains a little bit more interesting. Maybe the henchmen have something going on. One of them is played by Doe Pender from Deadpool. And once again, similar to like the Ozzy Osbourne thing, it just feels like, well, we got a celebrity and we have him playing a role that could easily be cut out any minute. And so it doesn't really feel like there's any personality to any of the other trolls or henchmen other than she's the only one with some kind of personality because she's leading them. There's a moment also where even though she's going from village to village to get the string, she hires bounty hunters to track down Poppy and Branch specifically, but they're not rock trolls. They're like the smooth jazz troll, the reggae trolls, or the K-pop trolls, which doesn't really make much sense in this world. But it kind of makes you think like you're willing to just use rock to like blow over every other village, but you don't want to use like rock bounty hunters. That probably would have made the threat a little bit more grander, the fact that you have like these badass rock and roll bounty hunters after them, but instead it's just, oh, it's the comedic relief bounty hunters and the other comedic relief bounty hunters that have such little personality that they're easily swayed at one point by Branch to do something for him. So that was also weak. There's nothing in this movie that really makes you fear for the villains. Even though the story is there to make you fearful of them, they skip over any damage that they do to all these other villages. It's a lot of Poppy and Branch show up and they see what happened and it's like, oh my gosh, how terrible. But because you don't have enough personality or motivation driving them beforehand, and because they skip over a lot of what they do, it just kind of makes the threat a little bit non-existent for a bit, only when it's most convenient near the end of the movie. Like, oh, now everything is raised, the stakes are raised. But even in that, like near the climax, a simple question is brought up that brings doubt to Bart. Like you can see on her face like, huh, I didn't really think about that. You know? So it's like a simple question can bring down your whole plan. What's the motivation that was driving you before then? Who was not asking this simple question that anyone could have asked before? Also, there's something about red eyes in the finale that makes absolutely no sense, so look out for that. But at the same time, the finale, it was heartwarming, it was nice, it was sweet of them to do, it ended on a positive note. I'm not afraid to admit that I was smiling and there was a little warmness in my soul at that point. They ended nicely, it's a nice movie for kids. Kids will enjoy it, but if you're looking at it from a me perspective who thinks any animated film can be good for anyone, not just kids, I think this movie is just once again mediocre like the first one. However, it's still a little better than the first movie at the same time because of the themes that they go for that are much more mature. This is, in a sense, a good idea of a sequel to get things a little bit deeper, and they do successfully kind of pull that off in the sense that they actually had the themes in there and it wasn't completely embarrassing or hilariously bad. The movie is still just kind of okay though. I'm gonna give Trolls World Tour a C. If you have kids at home right now that can't go anywhere, obviously, because no one can go anywhere, then turn this movie on for them, especially if they're fans of the first Trolls, because they probably will get a kick out of it. They might like it more than the first movie, but if you're an adult, I'd say maybe leave the room when you turn the movie on for them and just watch something else. But if you've seen Trolls World Tour, leave in the comments below what you thought of it, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.